Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today in the program, I speak with Nick from the NC Tigers, which is an Australian rules football team, which is based out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Australian rules football, otherwise known as Footy, as it is in Australian. And of course, Nick is an Aussie himself, so he's been playing it for a considerable amount of time. But he's got a club of guys that are mixed with, Australian imports and, people who've lived here in North Carolina and other places that have always wanted to try, Australian rules football, footy, as we'll just keep calling it. But it's a little bit different than soccer. It's definitely a lot different than football. But actually, it's a pretty growing sport. And we talk a lot about the rules and the growth of the sport. Nick is a wonderful ambassador for the program itself. And we talk a lot about that and a lot of the places where you can get information about the NC Tigers and the league itself. Plenty of information on this podcast. It took a little bit while to get it out, but I had a lot of time-sensitive interviews to get out, so there might be some things out of date as far as some dates coming up. But Nick was just a wealth of knowledge, and like I said, a wonderful ambassador for the sport of Australian rules football. Footy, as they call it down there. But anyways, let me give you some information of where I'm going to be at this weekend and upcoming. This weekend, Friday the 13th, I will be in Waterbury, Connecticut for Northeast Wrestling at Crosby High School. That is their 20th anniversary show, so make sure you show up for that. And then the next day, I'll be at LaGuardia Airport for the big event. I will be representing High Spots and KNS conventions, so make sure you come out for that. It's mostly just a convention, so you get to meet and greet numerous stars of professional wrestling, so you make sure you come out for that. But if you want to see me in the ring, don't worry. Next week, I will be in Virginia for Big Time Wrestling on Friday, November the 20th. Make sure you log on to BTW Pro for the information about where that is, because I don't know if I can properly pronounce the city it's in. So just log on to BTW Pro to find out what city it's in. It's a high school, and Ric Flair will be there. That's all you really need to know. Just make sure you log on to BTW Pro Friday, November the 20th. But then on November the 21st, that's Saturday, I will be wrestling for Omega Championship Wrestling in Smithfield, North Carolina. Already confirmed is Matt Hardy, Shane Helms, and Jeff's going to be there. It's just a star-studded lineup, as always, for Omega Championship Wrestling. Anyways, let me let everybody know that the sponsor of this podcast is Tree Monsters Comedy Wednesdays, hosted by Nick Alexander, former Stranger in a Southern Land guest Nick Alexander. So make sure you support him because he supports the podcast. But he's running a comedy show every Wednesday at Tremont Music Hall until they close. And this Wednesday will be no different, or the Wednesday after that. So make sure you show up and support Nick and what he's doing with Tree Monsters Comedy Wednesday at Tremont Music Hall every Wednesday until they close. Anyways, if you want to support me in this podcast, make sure you follow me on Twitter at ManScoutManning and on Instagram at ManScoutManning. If you have a question about the podcast, make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com. Or if you want to book me for an upcoming wrestling event, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. Oh, these announcements are getting longer and longer every week, folks. But I think I didn't stumble through that too much. But anyways, enough of me stumbling through the announcements. Let's jump into this wonderful conversation that I have with Nick from the NC Tigers here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here with Nick from the NC Tigers, which is a Australian rules football team.
That's right.
Nick, thank you so much for welcoming me in your home today and having this conversation with me.
Thanks for coming out. Good to talk to you.
I think the first place to start is probably you explaining to me what Australian rules football is, otherwise known as footy.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's a bit of a misnomer. I feel like a lot of people can confuse it with rugby at times because rugby is so much more popular in Australia as well. Mm-hmm. But they are very separate. Australian rules football, or AFL, as we call it, the Australian Football League in Australia, is a very unique sport, only really played professionally in Australia, but is starting to take take off around the world a little bit with amateur leagues, but it is a professional only in Australia. And it's kind of the skill base is a mixture of a lot of the sports that we have here in the US. So there's some basketball elements. It flows a lot like soccer in that it's continuous. There's no stopping. It plays. There's no stopping and starting.
Yeah, I see some clips of it. It almost looks like the most insane game of keep away and kind of a dickish game of keep away too.
Absolutely, I can see that. So the main elements is you're kicking the football is, you can see it if you're looking.
Yeah.
It's
like a football, but it's kind of has soccer elements, I guess, to it.
It's a little fatter than an American football,
Yeah.
but not quite a rugby ball. And so you're kicking it around the ground. You can't throw it to your teammates. You have to kick it to them. But the play is live the whole time, so you can be tackled, bumped and whatnot. Everyone's contesting for the ball, and then the aim is to kick it. We have goalposts at each end, and you want to try and kick it through the middle goalpost to score 6 points for your team and kind of go from there. But it's there's a great clip out on YouTube for free. It's, if you Google AFL explained, it's a great 30-minute clip that goes into kind of the details of the game and the rules, and as well as like kind of the clubs back home. And it's a very simple. It's aimed at internationals, people who aren't Australian, who haven't seen it before, and it's a really good way of explaining the game for those who haven't seen it before. So
yeah, because I saw the foot's involved, like it's kind of kicking, but also you can incorporate your hands too.
Absolutely, yeah. Lots of you can, we call it a mark if you catch it out of the air. So there's a lot of contests that are almost kind of like jump balls in football, down the field or whatnot. But then you can also what we call a hand pass it to your teammate, which is where you punch it out of your hand. But you have to be careful, because if you don't punch it and you throw it, then it's called a foul, and the other team gets a free kick. So,
okay, I was wondering about that because I just see people like punching.
Yeah.
Once again, like the biggest dickish game of keep away.
Absolutely, I can see that for sure.
Like everybody. So the goal is basically to kick it through the uprights.
Exactly right.
And that's
correct.
essentially where it goes.
That's your aim. Yeah.
So, anyways, with your, I think most people know by now your accent. Like you could tell that you were not a North Carolina native.
That's correct. Yes.
Where do you come from? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Melbourne, Australia, which is kind of the known as the unofficial home of Australian rules football. That's where it kind of began and started up. I grew up in Melbourne, Australia. I actually came over to the US playing tennis originally in college, and then after I was done with that, kind of found the North Carolina Tigers, and it was a good way to meet up with other Australians and get back to the game that I played growing up as kids. And most kids play a little, like at least a little bit at school or for a club growing up when.
So is that like what the kids would play like on the playground?
Absolutely, yeah.
Footy?
Every day at lunch, everyone's out there playing footy. And I remember for one year, I was at a new primary school, and we didn't have an oval yet or like a field to play on. We just had the kind of the concrete area to play on, and the kids still got out there and played. And there was probably not the safest thing looking back now, but
no, of course.
But yeah, a whole lot of fun for sure. It's definitely what all the kids play back home. So.
Okay, yeah. There's not like basketball or anything, but footy is primarily.
Right. Yeah, footy is probably king. Yeah.
Okay.
And then in the summer, cricket would be what takes over for us, where baseball would here. But footy definitely in Melbourne, and the country's kind of divided. In the southern states and out west, AFL footy is kind of our code of football, and then up north in Queensland and New South Wales, that's where they play rugby, and that's what they call football. So, but it kind of depends which state you're in as to.
Okay, so it's like the big contention between like football and like the way the rest of the world calls what we call soccer.
Exactly right.
It's big, but it's in your own country.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so you came from the section that was mostly playing footy and stuff like that. What were some of the other sports that the kids were playing?
Well, a little bias. I played a lot of tennis, which is pretty popular back home. Basketball is big, not big like it is here, but it's one of the more popular sports. Of course, soccer it's growing as well there. Like I said, cricket is huge. A lot of kids play cricket, and those are probably your biggest ones there. Swimming is pretty big as well. But really, I think the different codes of football and maybe some basketball are kind of your highest ones there.
Okay, and as far as like leagues and stuff like that over there, like do you have a professional league over there?
Yeah. So there is the AFL is the one professional league around the country. And then they have setups. Each state has its own league as well, which is almost like a minor league system here. And so and then from there it kind of takes levels down. Like so, the state has their top tier which feeds the AFL, and then below that there's a couple of different tiers. So in Melbourne, which is a city of about 3.5 million people, there's thousands of footy clubs around the one city. So it's a very, very popular sport, and you don't have to go very far to find a local team to play for or support. So
Okay, so it's basically just a club system. You get in, you try out for a club.
absolutely.
And is professionally, is it like, would it be like professional football here in the sense that you can make money off of it, or is it mostly just...
Yeah, no, it is. It's now at a point where it is pretty lucrative. It definitely can't match.
I'm just trying to gauge
money here.
I'm just trying to gauge the popularity of the sport in the country.
Gosh, yeah,
here,
no,
you know?
it's huge, and it's the biggest kind of marketing that you can find there is footy. Obviously, just because of the sheer lack of number of people, it can't quite reach what the NFL does here.
Yeah.
But as far as that, you absolutely they make some good money, and
But like footy stars are seen as
absolutely,
celebrities
they
and
are.
pro footy
They
players, and then
They certainly
you know
are.
there's that sense of like somebody goes to another club.
Yeah,
it's a
absolutely.
big controversy. So it's all,
There is.
when the club system, you're probably talking something's probably similar to UK soccer.
Absolutely, it's probably the closest thing would be comparing it more to UK soccer than it would to football here. So.
Yeah, and what would you think would be the difference? Because you've kind of been over here and see how football operates.
Yeah.
And you know how the club system works. Like what would you say is the difference between like pro sports teams and clubs?
Right. So I guess I don't know the one thing that comes to mind is that only just recently, I think it was only a couple of years ago in the AFL, that they the whole idea of free agency began. Before that, there was no such thing. Once you were drafted by a club, that was kind of the club you played for, unless
there was a draft system.
Yes, so still have a draft. Yep.
Okay.
They draft kids out of kind of out of high school, but rather than being big in high school like sports are here. Sports tend to be club-based right from the get-go. Okay. So kids are playing for clubs growing up, and that's how they kind of get recognized, and clubs draft them from there.
Okay.
So, and then, so recently they started the whole free agency thing, and having clubs having these blockbuster trades and stuff that didn't really happen too much before. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's kind of becoming a lot more like the US system in that regard.
Okay, do you feel like that's good for the sport? Because I know that people have free agency wasn't always that way in professional football.
Right,
that changed the whole game of
absolutely
of football in general.
It seems to add a new element for sure, and I think for a lot of the clubs, it's certainly a positive. I think it makes them have to almost sell themselves to the players at times a little bit more. They're more likely, I think, to go out of their way to look after players, make themselves presentable and more attractive to the players to want to come to their mm-hmm. club and play, since the players have more say now in where they go. So I think in that regard, it's definitely a positive.
Okay. Well, and growing up, what were the teams that you liked to watch?
Yeah, so the Essendon Bombers were always my team. Well, since I was very young, my dad was an Essendon fan, and so Essendon is a suburb in Melbourne. So Melbourne being the start of the AFL, mm-hmm. there's numerous clubs. I think about 10 clubs, all from the same city, but just different suburbs. Mm-hmm. So that was the club that my dad followed, and I just kind of grew up following them as well, and. Yeah, kind of a diehard fan right from the get-go. Kind of if things didn't go well on the Saturday, I remember being pretty depressed on the Sunday, and it felt like a very long week waiting for the next Saturday for them to get back out there. But so Essendon Bombers was who I followed. But like I said, there's a lot of clubs out of Melbourne. Then most of the other major cities in the country really only have one team or maybe two, as the game's kind of extended into a national game rather than just the state level that it started with.
Okay, so you grew up a fan,
mm-hmm.
and from there. You became interested in tennis. How'd you branch off into tennis?
I think as a kid, I tried a whole lot of sports. I just loved sport from the get-go. I think my family did too. My two of my mum's brothers, my uncles, played tennis. So it was just one of the natural things that I tried and started. And it's funny. I think I played some footy too as a kid, and at the very youngest age, they don't like a lot of tackling or a lot of contact, which kind of pushed me away from it. Because
it was a push that way, away from it. In a sense.
It was because as a kid, I wanted to play like they're playing on the TV. If you want to play, I'm going to play. I don't want to mess around. And so I was like, well, I always thought, I'll come back to it at a later age when we're allowed to hit properly and tackle and whatnot. But then. Got into the tennis pretty seriously and never came back to it until much, much later. So
okay, so it wasn't like a situation like, oh, I really wanted my son to be the best footy player in the country, and he ran off and he became a tennis person.
No, it didn't quite happen like that. But
it was more the mom wanted you to be safe.
That certainly came into it. Yeah.
Okay, so you let's talk about you as far as your tennis career and stuff like that. When did you get the inkling that maybe you should go to the States? As far as
it was actually what would be considered my senior year of high school. Back in Australia, I came over on a trip to play in some local competitions up in the Midwest as a kind of part of a traveling team mm-hmm. During one of our school breaks, and happened to during that time got noticed by a couple of local college coaches up there and started talking to them. I wasn't really thinking seriously at the time about it until I actually got a scholarship offer and thought, oh gosh, this is a good idea. I was planning on
because I had to play. I almost had to pay out of state tuition, but luckily I had a scholarship, so that nullified that. I can only imagine the type of tuition you would have had to pay being out of country.
Absolutely. So I wasn't. I was thinking I was probably going to go to university back in Australia and play tennis on the side a little bit. But that when that option came up, it was certainly intriguing. And so said yes. Ended up playing tennis for Wright State up in Dayton, Ohio, and from there was kind of history. Came down and did graduate school down here in Chapel Hill, and then joined the Tigers and got back into the footy after the tennis was all done. So.
Okay, so you got the interest when you got to North Carolina.
That's right. Yeah, I did the whole time I was up in Ohio with the Columbus Jackaroos. There's actually a team out of Columbus.
I was going to say, because they said this whole started like this wave to America. It was like in '97,
right?
Around the Kentucky,
Cincinnati,
Cincinnati.
Yeah,
area.
It was.
Were you ever aware of that?
I knew nothing of it, which is probably a good thing. I think my tennis coach probably wouldn't have been too happy if I was out playing Aussie rules football on the.
Because I made the same mistake. I quit track and field to join pro wrestling. So
right, absolutely.
That would have happened to me as well.
Exactly.
So,
I found the Tigers once I got down here, and it was great where I've met a lot of other not a lot, but a few other Australians. Our club is kind of unique in that most of our player base are Americans who have kind of found the sport either through friends or the limited coverage we do get on TV here, or we've had a couple who have traveled to Australia and found the game that way and came back and wanted to participate. So, but I have met a few other Australians that way and made some really good friends through the sport. It's just a great sport. The USAFL does a great job of making it very social as well. So all of our matches, whether we traveled just recently, we traveled to Atlanta this past weekend with a team and played against them, and then what we play in the afternoon, and then in the evening the home team hosts the other team at a local bar or restaurant that tends to sponsor them, and everyone gets together and kind of socializes after that, talks about the game and talks nonsense and whatnot, and everyone has a good time. So there's great social aspect to it over here as well, which they've kind of brought over from the way it is back home as well. And
is that the way it is over there? Like
clubs?
A
lot of the local clubs. Yeah, while they might not mingle as much with the other clubs within the club itself, there tends to be a big social aspect to it. There's lots of social nights and things like that, and they really try and get families involved as well as just the players. So. Okay. We try to do that here as well.
Well, let's talk about the USAFL, because
Absolutely.
I did a little bit of research beforehand, and I was actually impressed by the amount of teams that were part of it. It's great. I mean, you got teams in California,
right.
Quite a few in the Midwest, and then, of course, up and down the East Coast.
Absolutely.
Just kind of talk about the growth of that league itself as much as you know about it.
Yeah, for sure. So, as far, like I said, I've only known about it for a few years myself, but I think the league began. I think the first games were played back in 1997, and they started a national tournament soon thereafter. And that's actually when our club was founded by Seth McAvaney back in 1997 as well. And then from there, like you said, it's expanded. It's huge. There's actually a couple of teams up in Canada as well who also participate in the USAFL. And there's 30 odd teams within the USAFL now. And the way they run it is. By divisions is the way it works in the end. So at the national tournament every year. So this year it's in Austin, Texas, and it's every year it's in October. So it's coming up next month. And there's 8 teams in each division. There's four different divisions, and so they you compete. It's kind of round robin. You play 3 games within your division, and then there's a grand final for the 2 teams that had the best record out of that in each division. So the North Carolina Tigers, we actually last year were the champions. We were national champions in Division 4, so we won our division. So this year we're kind of moving up to Division 3. So for a whole new challenge there, and we'll see how we do.
Okay, so it's divided up by divisions. Is that geographic or is that caliber?
It's kind of caliber by the weight of your results and who you've beaten and who you haven't. Most of the games there's no set schedule. The clubs kind of work between themselves to work out schedules throughout the year. So some clubs might play.
Because I'm sure logistics plays a large part.
Yeah.
As it's not like you're going to play.
Sports,
you're not going to play the Bakersfield.
Right, exactly. So we end up it is split kind of into geographically, and that's the teams you're going to end up playing throughout the regular season, just because of, like you said, the challenges of traveling further than that. So we tend to play teams up and down the East Coast for most of it. We play against a team out of Baltimore, Washington, Atlanta. Oftentimes we play New York. We've played Columbus. We go down to Florida. We went to Fort Lauderdale and played their team this year. So you tend to play the same set of teams each year within your geographically, and then at nationals you have the opportunity, because it's then by division, you get the chance to play against teams from all over the country, depending on how your season has gone so far. So that's always exciting, because it's a nice new challenge rather than seeing the same faces you've probably seen a few times throughout the year. It's usually teams that you haven't seen. So.
And I'm sure you want to like also probably mix in some different teams to get yourself better, because if you're playing those same teams, you're probably like, well, let's take a couple Midwest dates, as opposed to going to New York, let's head west. Absolutely,
you're exactly right, and therein kind of lies the challenge. Once it's recruiting is such a big thing for us, being a sport that not a lot of people are very aware of. There's no natural way for people to come in if we're not actively going getting exposure, exposing ourselves, and actively getting recruits who are interested in it. It's a great sport. Once people find out about it, they love it. We rarely have someone come out to a practice or a game and then not come back. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great sport to watch and play. But once you do have that good base of players who are willing to put in the time and travel, because it's a big commitment to if it's a weekend away, even if it's as close as Atlanta, it's a whole weekend of travel up one day, have the game, come back the next day, and there's obviously expenses to it too. As the club can't cover it all. So
so does the club cover some of the expenses, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have player dues at the beginning of the season, where the players have to put in $100 to the club to kind of get in, and then we have some sponsors, some local sponsors. Woody's at City Market in Raleigh is a big sponsor of us, and Patrick Janes in Carey sponsor us as well. And in return, we have a lot of, like I was talking about the social events. We have a lot of events at both of those places, and so that helps to subsidize some of the trips, where the club will try and pay for the hotel expense here and there, or give some money towards travel expenses and such. But being an amateur sport, most of it is out of the player's pocket. So it is a big commitment, but once you've got that base of people who are committed to it and love it and willing to travel, then we try to broaden out and play as many different teams as we can, get that exposure to different playing styles and different quality teams.
Yeah, obviously, and I'm sure the sponsors probably help with, except the hotels, and of course I'm guessing you guys would rent like a big passenger van and every pilot.
Many times we have, yeah. Sometimes we end up with just multiple cars heading down, and then the longer trips, there seems to be one or two a year where it just makes more sense to fly. So I think all of the players flew down to Fort Lauderdale earlier in the year, and I think Will to Austin as well for nationals. So it's a big range, but it's definitely there's some fun weekends. The away trips with the boys, it's good fun.
Yeah, so you got an activity, you're going with your friends, and that's pretty much it. And I'm sure, with the sponsors and stuff like that, that helps. But you guys are the ones going out and getting those sponsors as well.
You're right.
I imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have a board of directors for the club, and that's there's 7 of us. 6 of them are active players on the team, and so it is a lot of time and effort by the players put into to do all of those kinds of things. Whereas for other sports, there might be a board that's separate from the actual players, but we love it, and so if you're willing to put in the work, you can make it happen.
Yeah, and it seems like there has to be, when you have those many people knocking around, like everybody's got to get on the same page. There has to be one voice. Who's the one voice in the NC Tigers that when they says, okay, be here at this time, we are leaving in this time,
absolutely,
we will show up at this time? Who is that one voice?
I'd say Justin Plumley is our president right now, and he does a fantastic job. He puts in so many hours that I think most of even the players don't even know about in organizing all these trips and getting everything ready to go, and then afterwards as well. So I think he's the one voice that kind of keeps us on track and organized and heading in the right direction. Our coach, Wes McAllister, he's definitely like that as well. He's more the voice on the field, that's for sure. He's a player coach as well.
Yeah, I was going to say player.
Absolutely, he's one of our and he's one of the few American coaches on the in the USAFL. So he's been one of our great American players. He's had some time playing for the US team, because there's the US Revolution, which is a team made up of all American players who play
the national team.
The national team. Yep, they play against the Canadian team every year, and then every few years there's an international tournament in Australia that they travel for. So he did that a few years back, and he's got a great mind for football and sports in general. And so he's who keeps us organised on the field, and Justin, like I said, does a great job of keeping the club moving forward. But it is really a group effort. We have so many guys who, willing to put in extra time and hours into things, not the fun stuff, but it's the stuff that gets us to where we want to be, to where we can do the fun stuff on the field.
Okay, well, how many people are part of this club?
So we have, I think, around 35 active players on our email list right now. Obviously, you can't always get everyone on the same page. So there's 18 players on the field at a one time. So we always try to, that's the kind of our number, to make sure we have 18 for all of our trips. Home games are obviously a lot easier logistically, so we tend to get most of those, up towards a 30-odd number out for home games. And then traveling, like I said, we try to get to that 18. But it's I think somewhere in the 30s, around 35 guys on the list right now. So we're trying to grow that all the time. Some of our better players right now are guys who are in their first and second years of playing the sport, who hadn't even heard of it a year ago. So there's great athletes in the US. We have guys come out who are just they're just athletic. You can tell they can just pick up a sport and they'd be good at it.
Well, what type of backgrounds are some of these guys? Like maybe athletic backgrounds or just regular backgrounds?
Most of them pretty athletic backgrounds. I think to be drawn to a sport like the US, to a sport like Aussie rules, you've probably had some interest in sports and athletics beforehand. We've got a lot of soccer players. I think the foot to eye coordination of kicking a ball.
Does that seem like an easy transition? Like if you're getting an American that's never played it before?
I think soccer does help. Yeah, but then guys who have played basketball or American football too. I mean, a lot of the like kind of juking and moving around with the ball the way a running back or a wide receiver does in football definitely helps as well. And like I said, there's really elements from any sport you can think of that are used in our game. So like I said, we've got guys from all sorts of backgrounds, and they're like American athletes are just they've just got it, man. I feel like in Australia we don't have that plethora where every athlete can just pick up another sport and go for it. I feel like we're more trained towards one sport or another. But very impressed by some of the new guys who come out.
Yeah, especially because we did all the football, and then basketball was just as big, and then baseball. We were always pushed at least in three different directions.
Right. Yeah, there's multi-sport.
And then of course we narrow it down as we get older, and then all of a sudden we just stop.
Right. Yes.
So,
and that's where we try to pick you up and get you back into a sport.
That's where you pick them up, is in their 20s and stuff like that.
Right.
So, I'm trying to think what are some other questions as far as. Where are you guys playing the games, like physically?
Right. So this year we've been playing at the field that we're supposed to play on. They're not standardized, but it is a much bigger field than what you play American football on. As to fit 18 players aside, you'd expect it would be pretty big. So trying to find the space is sometimes a challenge. Right now we could play at a field out in Fuquay Arena this year, just because there is a ton of soccer fields all in one place, and if you spread it, it's flat enough that we can turn it into one big oval for us. We've also played out at Thompson Park in Ghana a few times, and even in Carborough there's a field that we've used a few times as well. So it's always kind of changing depending on what you're always trying to find a better venue with enough space and a nice enough field. Our practices, we train on Saturdays out at Briar Creek Elementary. Again, that space probably isn't big enough to hold games, but it's big enough for us to train on, and it's a good central location in kind of the triangle area for people. So,
what are you doing on a practice? Like, what are you guys training?
Absolutely.
What are you getting ready? How are you getting ready?
Yeah, so we've got I think with any kind of sport, and speaking as a physical therapist, very important. We start off with a good warm up and some stretching, and then we do a lot of skill drills as far as warming up, kind of some handballing back and forth and some kicking back and forth, and getting the mind thinking right. And then we try to move on to more game-based drills where we'll have situations that come up in a game where sometimes when if the other team kicks at goal and they miss and they kick what we call a behind, which is just worth 1 point, then we have to kick out from their end and try and get it down the field. So we set up the field as if we're going to set it up for that kick out and try to put the whole play together to where it gets from one end to the other with us kicking in at goal if everything goes well. So that's how kind of drills that we set up like that. And then
so there is strategy, because the clip I saw was just people just throwing it around. So
to the untrained eye, it probably looks like a big mess, I'd imagine.
So there is a method of some sort.
There is, yeah. There's definitely some strategies that you try to employ, and and like Coach Wes has some great drills that he has us running out there, and we tried more recently as we're getting closer to nationals too. We're trying to break down practices into more positional play too, where they've got the midfielders working on what they need to work on, and the guys up forward working on their stuff, and defenders working on defending rather than sometimes earlier on in the season we're trying to feel out everyone, so we're doing drills that incorporate all sorts of things, whereas now we're trying to kind of specialize it a little bit more, and we're used to where guys are going to play on the field and trying to train them specifically for that position. So
well, in like most sports, like in football, they always talk about like we're a defensive team, and we're going to focus mostly on defense because our offense isn't quite as good, but defense is what wins games. Right. And then also football too is like we're a running team because we have a good running back. Right. Basketball, we're transitional offense. We don't play a lot of defense, but we're fast. We're good on the fast break.
Absolutely.
Now in footy, is there that type of mentality, like we're this type of team?
Yeah. We're
this type of management with the ball. Mm-hmm. Is there anything like that that's similar to footy?
Yeah, there is a little bit. There's a few different types. So some teams would consider themselves more of a running team, where they want to they want to get the ball moving quickly. They'll take a mark and where they have the chance, they could step back and take their time and take their kick. Mm-hmm. And instead of doing that, they'll handball it off and keep it running, keep it moving the whole time. Other teams might be more of a possession team. They want to keep possession of the ball the whole time, so they're going to take their time, make that next kick as perfect as can be to make sure they don't turn it over, and try to slowly build up the play and get it down the field. Whereas other teams might have more of a might be a taller side or a more talented side aerially, kind of taking marks up in the air, where they'll try and just get it up high and forward as quickly as they can to let those skillful guys take the mark and have shots at goal. So you can kind of cater towards the kind of team you have and the skill set that your team has. Us a little bit. I would consider ourselves this year. It kind of changes year to year depending on who we got.
Well, obviously because of body types. If you got taller people, you want to put it in the air more.
Absolutely.
If you have quicker people, you want to move it a little faster.
Right. And so we got one of our best players is Scott Bradley. He's an Australian as well who won our best and fairest last year, which is kind of like our MVP award. And he's a taller guy who can really jump and take some good marks. So he plays mostly across our half forward line, so we like to get it up to him as quick as we can and get it in his hands. But I think this year we've also turned into a little bit more of a running team. We've become a lot more comfortable in handballing the ball and keeping it running, keeping it moving. We haven't always been that way. The more possessions you're having, the more you're hand passing, the more chance there is of making a mistake. So we've always been a little leery of that. And you also need to have the legs to keep running all day too if you want to play that way. So, but I think we've done a good job of transitioning that. We played that sort of game this past weekend in Atlanta and had a good win on the road, which is tough to do in our league because as we spoke about, getting guys to travel is not as easy as playing at home. So that was good. We kind of, depending on the players we have at the time, can dictate the strategy that we have on that day.
Okay. What are some of the tougher teams you face? Like, what are some teams like, man, when we go against them, we've got our work cut out for us?
Absolutely. So I think some of the perennial powerhouses in the USAFL tend to be cities where you have a lot of Australians. Mm-hmm. So the biggest cities, kind of New York is always a powerhouse. They've always got a good team. Dallas tends to be one of the better sides as well. And then a few of the sides out west tend to have a lot of Australians and be good as well. So those are kind of New York being the one side from Division 1, one of those powerhouses that we play probably the most often. And we got to face off against them in a tournament earlier in the year this year, and didn't get by them, but gave them a bit of a fight, which was always good too. So I think those are some of your kind of powerhouses that we expect it year in, year out to have a tough game with. But then some of our rivals too, Baltimore, Washington, you always, we know those guys really well, play them twice a year, once here, once there. We know how they play and know who their good players are. So that's always a really tough contest because they know us well as well. So.
You said there's a lot when there's a lot of Australians are like, oh, we got what our fight cut out for us. Is it just because the mere fact that they've played it for so long?
Yeah, I think so. I think just being more familiar with the game. it doesn't necessarily mean they're better athletes, but just having that understanding. I think in any sport, if you've watched it, played it for more time, you got that experience. Australians tend to be, a little more tricky out on the field. They're going to try things you might not have seen if you haven't been playing the game long enough, and you'll think, I'm a much better athlete than this guy. Then all of a sudden, he's out there taking a mark, and you don't know where he went. So yeah, there is a rule. There's 18 players on the field, and you have a maximum of 9 Australians at one time on the field.
Oh, so you've capped it.
It has been capped. Yes.
So I was going to say, wouldn't there be a team out there that's got like 12 or 16 Australians?
So that would be New York. I'm not sure how many they have, but it's definitely more than 9. And so they have to actually take note and make sure that they're doing the right thing by the rules there.
So they're almost in a position where they're recruiting non-Australians just to field the team.
Absolutely.
Where you guys are probably like, oh, you're Australian, you know
please
what
come.
footy?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got 5 or 6 Australians on our team, who may or may not be there on the day. So it's not a rule that we have to worry about, but yeah, so definitely teams that have a lot more Australians, it makes it, you hear the accent when you get on the field, and you're like, oh, I got to keep an eye on number 6. He's got an accent. Or you go back to the huddle and let everyone know that, hey, keep an eye on him. So yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Okay, well, have you run into anybody like playing footy here in the States that you knew back home, or relatives, or anybody that you had acquaintances with?
I haven't actually. There's one guy, Mark Griffin, on our team who grew up. We're good friends now. We worked out that for a period of years back, growing up, we probably lived one suburb away, probably 5 minutes from each other's house, but didn't know each other at the time. And he has a friend who plays for New York, and they were good friends when they were younger growing up. So he knows him, but I haven't actually met anyone who I knew growing up. But I'd say it'll be pretty common, just because so many Aussies out here in playing the game. So
yeah, are there any ringers that come in, like professional guys that get like really good jobs all of a sudden by the club owner in New York by chance?
There was a controversy a couple of years ago that involved the Dallas club with a guy who probably shouldn't have been on the team, I suppose, because he had played at a level in Australia that kind of limited how much he's supposed to play over here, and during the same year too. So I don't know all the details of it, but it certainly had an impact on the results of the Division 1 up there. So.
Okay, so there's a knowledge that, like, hey, we got to watch out for these Australians taking it over.
Absolutely, there is. Yeah. Not common, but it's out there.
It's out there.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention.
That's right.
taking it over. But anyways, as far as the league, has there been any other talk of expansion in other teams and stuff like that? Have you seen other teams pop up in just the short time that you've been doing it, or like what's the growth of the league right now?
For sure, and it seems to be growing. It is growing. There has been, even here in North Carolina, I think Charlotte tried to start up a team at one point. There was a guy, and it didn't quite work out. Having to have such a big base of players to be able to make a club work makes it tough. You have to have a huge commitment. Yeah. But there have been, like we kind of mentioned, that everything kind of started up in Cincinnati, kind of Louisville, Kentucky area, way back when. There actually wasn't. For quite a few years, there wasn't even a team in that area, and just recently they've popped up and have started playing a lot more games. In Florida, one big club has kind of broken up into a few different clubs now, and they're being able to survive as well. So it is growing. It's definitely growing. It's just a matter of needing so many players in one area. But Nationals is just such a fun weekend every year, because you get all of those clubs all in one place. They tend to have Australian food. There's Australian meat pies and stuff being served everywhere, and people get to drink Australian beers and whatnot. So that's always nice. And there's a lot of footy on the field. So that's it's always a great weekend. And that's when you get to really see how much it's growing. You see how all the different clubs bringing more players every year. There's a women's league that's doing well now. A lot of the clubs have women's teams, and they come to Nationals and compete too.
Oh, so they're in conjunction with the local clubs.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So one club that comes to mind is the Denver Bulldogs. I know they have a really great women's team, and that work, they have the same facility as the men's team, and they kind of piggyback together that way. So
because they got 2 now, and they get two people paying dues,
exactly
double
right.
that, double. Probably that makes the club run more efficiently. And
Absolutely.
Stuff like that. Is there any particular club that comes to mind? You're like, wow, they're really doing it right. They've got their they're getting a lot of focus. They're getting good sponsors. They're doing this. Is there any club to mind that's kind of like a pinnacle like that?
Yeah, well, I think it brings me back again to New York, and I think just because they've been around so long and have had so many people, it helps. And being in that big area, I think it's a lot easier to market and bring people in. They seem to be doing things really well.
The population base is much larger.
And then we were just down in Fort Lauderdale for the Eastern Regionals this year, and they're a fairly new club in their current form, and they're doing a great job too. They've got a wonderful facility down there that is an actual oval, like the right dimensions and everything, and it's got a grandstand, beautiful grass. I think they play some cricket out there as well, and there's a soccer team that uses it from time to time. But they're doing things really well because they've got a great base of players already, and they've got that wonderful facility, and they've got a really good team. They play good football. So I think that's the other thing that really helps to build the club is a little bit of success for sure. So we were able to bring home the Division 4 championship trophy last year, and you put that up on the website, and
you come into it's like sell sponsors,
exactly,
and also bring people in and stuff
bring
like
the
that.
trophy into Woody's, and people start talking. It makes a big difference. Winning certainly helps. We've found like I said, a lot of our better players this year are rookies and new guys to the sport, and I think a lot of that has come about from just the enjoyment of having some success. The guys are much more likely to go out and talk about it than if you don't. So.
Absolutely. And as far as like these games, are like the fans show up, or like there's a charge, is it admission? Like how's that usually work?
Our home games are always free. We have great family support and such. Like I said, we try to make it as much of a family-based club as possible. So we've got spouses and kids and pets and whatnot all out there, and hopefully a few friends. We always try to get guys to bring out a few of their friends too who don't know the sport that well. Let them watch a game and see how good it is, and hopefully they'll want to come out for practice and have a go. And that's the thing too. We're constantly recruiting all year round. We're very open. We have. You can never have played before, and it's 1 month before nationals right now. We'll still have anyone come out and train with us and just get to know the sport, because for a sport like us, just having it just getting the name out there and getting the sport out there and getting that exposure is just so big for us. So we're always we'll take anyone no matter what fitness level. You'd be surprised at how unfit most of us are out there. But any fitness level and any skill level, we just want guys to come out and enjoy it and have a good time.
Okay, well. Tell people where they can find out and how they can enjoy the NC Tigers, like your social medias, website, how they can get in contact.
Yeah. So our website is nctigers.com, and all the information's on there. We've got links to ways to learn the game, Footy 101 we call it, and then Footy 102 once you get through that, and all the links to from there. You can email us if you want to join or find out more. There's our schedules up there and all the news from the club. We're also on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We've got an Instagram as well. So we got a guy, Mark, who's really good about being active on there. So we have found quite a few recruits come out through finding us through the social media. We've had some Australians who have come into North Carolina who have seen the website and stuff. So that's where I think you'll find the best information is going to the website, that nctigers.com. And checking us out that way. And then like I said, our practices are every Saturday at 9:30 at Briar Creek Elementary. Like I said, you don't even have to contact us if you don't want to. Just come on out and meet us there. And then the only time we don't have practice is if we have a game that weekend. So.
All right. Well, is there anything that I've glazed over about Australian rules football at all, or anything about the NC Tigers that you want to mention right now?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, it's just such a wonderful sport, and I encourage anyone to look it up. And if you're not familiar with it, just watch a few minutes of the game, because it's just a wonderful game. It flows really well. It has some of the best elements, I think, of a lot of other sports. And I think if you give it a few minutes to watch, it's a lot of fun. A lot of the people are put off by kind of the highlight reels from the professionals online, because there's a lot of big hitting and crazy hits and stuff. At our level, we're not moving at the same pace they are, so it's definitely doesn't have quite that same level of risk as of course in any sport. There's some risk, and there's some big hitting and stuff, but it's nothing like some of the videos people see on there. But yeah, check it out and have a look, and it's just a wonderful sport. Come out and give it a go if anyone's interested.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you very much for your time and talking about the NC Tigers.
Appreciate it.